This is the Minted Podcast, a show for small business owners running a business and a life at the same time. Every day, I get to work with people just like you. You're great at your profession, but dread doing all the operational tasks. It drains your cash and your headspace. If you're at the point where you are done winging it, but outsourcing or hiring still feels a step away, this show is for you. Hi, I'm Lisa Morey, the founder of Mint Agency, and today we're answering this question: how do I harness my neurodiversity in business? To help us to do that, I'm speaking with Professor Sarah Verdon, the founder of NeuroBloom Speech Pathology and lecturer at our very own Charles Sturt University. All right, let's get minted. Welcome, Sarah. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Let's jump straight into it. What is neurodiversity?
Great question, Lisa. Well, neurodiversity is really an umbrella term for every single person's brain in the world. So basically we talk about neurodiversity in the same way that we might talk about human diversity. So you have like all different cultures and languages. It's the same for our brains. Lots of different people have different wirings to their brain. And we roughly categorize these into two groups. So we have neurotypicals, which is the majority of people, and then we have neurodivergents, which is people who are like ADHD, autism, dyslexic, that kind of thing. But a really important thing that we emphasize in the neurodiversity movement is that we don't see this as a disability. It's just as a different wiring of the brain. We know that people who are neurodivergent often do have disabilities that come along with their neurodiversity, but sometimes they're just wired differently. And so as we research more about neurodivergence and understanding the autistic brain and the ADHD brain, we realise that there are so many strengths to that brain if we can set up the environment in the right way for that person to thrive. And that's something that I'm really focused on both in my research at the university but also in my practice when I help people one-on-one.
Wow. So going deeper into that. So these days we are hearing a lot about people being diagnosed with ADHD and autism, and I feel like it's almost every second person, and whether it's like a small bit or whether they're medicated or whatever, like what extreme it is. I've got 2 kids in primary school and they even tell me how many kids go to the office to take medication to deal with it. Obviously, there are extremes, but like what are you seeing now that the studies are there and the more people are talking about it, more people are open about it, like our kids are open to talking about it. Yeah. How are you seeing the world evolving now that this is all sort of open and commonly discussed?
We've had such a huge shift in this field. So we've, what we talk about in the research is moving from a medical model where we saw it as a disability or something to be worried about or ashamed about, moving to a social model of health, which is just realising that we have a lot of diversity in our population, but we can set up people's environments to help them thrive and function really well if we understand how their brain works. So, for example, myself, I'm what they call ADHD, so I've got autism and ADHD, but I had no idea about that until I was in my early 30s because it was just not diagnosed, particularly in women, particularly in girls like me who kind of were fine, did fine at school. There was no big red flag. There was no behavioural stuff, which is usually the kids that get diagnosed are the ones that are climbing off the walls and things like that. As the research has expanded to understand what neurodiversity can really encompass, a lot of people are now saying, oh, that's actually how my brain works, and I didn't know that that had a name, and now that I do, I can understand how my brain works and function a lot better instead of thinking that I'm just terrible at everything. So it's been a real reframing to say, yeah, look, for me personally, yes, I'm always running late and I'm very disorganised and I'm very forgetful, but I'm also super creative and I'm really efficient at getting things done if I love them, and I can tell you every fact about a topic that I'm really interested in. So there's balance and there's strengths as well as weaknesses rather than just seeing it from that deficit point of view. And I think, how you're saying about how people talk about it now, as a professional, I'm very happy to tell you that I'm ADHD now. But I think maybe 5 years ago, I wouldn't have said that to anyone because I would have thought maybe they'll think I'm not very good at my job. Maybe they won't hire me. Maybe they won't get me to be a guest speaker because they might think, oh, gosh, okay, what are we getting ourselves into here? But now that more and more people are talking about it, the stigma is going away and we're realising that people do have great skills to share with us. And I talked about this in my TED Talk that you came to, but without autistic people, we wouldn't have electricity and Wi-Fi and space travel, So
100%.
if we really thought about it as a disability, then we'd be missing out on some of the greatest parts of human evolution. So it's about flipping the script on that and trying to see it from a strengths-based point of view.
And look, just you even saying yourself, and you're in this space and you're saying the feeling of not wanting to tell people. Obviously, we're coming a long way because I know plenty of people like that have it, kids and adults, even adults that have found out their kids have got it and then they go and get diagnosed themselves. They're like, oh,
it's the most common pathway.
Now I can explain like why I'm always late and why I don't like some task. So how do you overcome that barrier of not wanting to tell people?
Well, I think, you know how you were saying it feels like every second person these days? It actually kind of is. So if we look at the research stats from not even that long ago, it used to be 1 in 1,000 was autistic. And then it sort of shifted into like 1 in 100 and people were freaking out. And now in Australia, the official stat was recently 1 in 67 or something. But with the research that we're doing, looking more deeply into all the different forms of neurodiversity, so dyslexia, dyscalculia, all these other ones that can come under that banner, we're looking at about 1 in 5 people who are neurodivergent. And so it isn't rare. And so I think realising that it's not rare is something that's helped me to come out and talk about it, because it's not like I'm some very odd outlier, but I'm actually representative of heaps of people who are going through the same thing but may not even know that they have it or may not understand how to harness that in a way that could really benefit them.
Yeah, and 100%. Like you said, from many years ago who invented electricity and so forth, and then you've got the ones these days that are also inventing things who admit they do have some form of neurodiversity. So, yeah, like you can see when those people speak out, you're like, oh, I get it. But I still hear personally the skeptics, and it kind of gets me a little bit burnt up because I still have those people that go, oh, like, why has everyone got to have a label? And being a parent myself, I'm like, it's not about having a label. It's not about diagnosing every kid with something. It's about learning, well, this is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, my view of it is we're learning how to better accommodate and educate and help our kids. We're trying to help them be the better version of themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we label our kids regardless. So you can label your child as ADHD or you can label them as lazy, disruptive, naughty, rude. Mm-hmm. And those labels have a lot more damage. And also in the system that we work in, sometimes we need a label. So you need a label of ADHD to get the medication that you need to support a child with ADHD, and you need the label of autism to get NDIS funding. So the labels have a purpose. It's not just for fun that we label people. And you don't need to walk around and just point at someone and say, oh, look, they're autistic. You know, the label serves a purpose. And if that purpose stays in your report that you give to your healthcare provider, that's fine. But there's a reason for that. It's something that I experience a lot in my speech pathology practice, is that pushback from families who are really scared of that diagnosis and labelling their child. And often I think that just comes from a lack of understanding. So what does this mean for my child? If we say that my child is autistic, what's that going to mean for their future? And my perspective is, well, your child is autistic, whether you say it out loud or not.
Correct.
And option A is we find out everything we can about the autism and give them a great chance to thrive at life and get them the support they need, a speech pathologist, an occupational therapist, a psychologist, or we pretend it doesn't exist and we watch them go down the path that we know is the trajectory of kids with really poor mental health, really poor outcomes at school, really poor employment rates, really poor social relationships. So that's really the options you're staring at. When you look at those two options, the labelling is actually loving and supporting your child. It's not doing anything negative to your child. One of the biggest risks that we can do is bury our head in the sands and pretend that it's not happening, because then we leave our kids to try and fend for themselves rather than supporting them.
That is such a great answer. Fantastic answer, because like you said, they've got it whether you want to admit it or not. And I know being there with friends, and then when they first get the diagnosis, they're like, well, no, you're not giving my kid a label. Like, no, that doesn't exist. But like you said, it does exist, whether you want to admit it or not. And so why is that? Why do parents feel the need to protect, or do they think they're going to get bullied, or like why do parents just feel the need to resist it?
I think it's because there's still so much social stigma around autism. I see less pushback on ADHD. People seem to have gotten over ADHD because I guess it's become more socially acceptable. But there's a lot of social stigma around autism because there's still that real lack of understanding. So most people would not meet me and think that I was autistic because I don't look like what the stereotype looks like in their head. And so when more and more people speak out and say, oh, hey, actually I'm autistic, I think that can help break the stigma because they'll go, oh, well, she has a job and she has a family and she has friends, so maybe this isn't the end of the world. And autism can look so different on so many people and people can have a lot of co-occurring challenges with it. So some people have physical disabilities as well. So obviously I'm not representative of all autistic people, but it's just about showing that there are positive pathways forward for everyone, but the denial isn't going to get us on that positive pathway forward. And interestingly, through my observations, I think one of the biggest reasons they deny it is because they'll often say to me, oh, that's just how I am too. And it's like, because you're also autistic. And so because they've gone through their whole life not thinking that, because as I say, people say to me, oh, what is it like to be autistic? And I say, I don't know. I've never had a turn of anyone else's brain. Yeah. This is the only brain I've ever had. So I only know this experience. I can't tell you what it's like to be autistic. I just can tell you what it's like to be a human because that's my life.
Exactly.
And so a lot of parents who have lived their whole life being undiagnosed autistic or undiagnosed ADHD don't know that their brain is functioning differently to everybody else's until you point out all these features in their children and they're like, yeah, but I do that every day. And it's like, I know, and you've done really well to get through life without any support. Yeah. And I think that myself, do I want the same fate for my kids as what I had? Do I want them to find out, because I've got 2 kids who are diagnosed, do I want them to find out in their 30s or do I want them to know at age 6, okay, this is how your brain's wired. You're not going to cope in loud noises. The reason that you're feeling dysregulated is because your clothes feel weird. So we're going to go and get some more comfortable clothes and that's going to solve the problem. We're going to get ahead of these things so that they can function and thrive instead of when I was a kid, you just was like, put on your clothes and stop whinging,
And yet you run around naked every day because you're like, I don't like it.
Yeah, so figuring out, okay, how does your brain work best? It doesn't work best when we wear those shoes, so we're chucking those shoes out. We're not going to fight that battle every day. And then you can go to school and your brain will feel relaxed and you'll learn and you'll do really well rather than fighting a battle that doesn't need to be fought.
Yeah, look, and the more you talk, the more I think about one of our podcast guests actually touched on just the whole depression side of business and the more you fought it, the harder it was to overcome. And that's what I'm hearing. Like when you're
true.
Yes, it's like one of those things where you just go, I'm okay. Everything's going to be okay. But it actually, in the end run, like eventually you're not okay.
No, it's there whether you acknowledge it or not.
Yeah.
But if you acknowledge it, you're going to be able to get out of it.
Yes.
With depression. There's treatments for these things. And also anxiety is a huge thing that goes hand in hand with neurodivergence and business. And so it's very common. But there are treatments for anxiety. Or you can just white knuckle it through every day and drive yourself insane.
Yeah.
So, as I always say to people, if you got diagnosed with cancer, you wouldn't say, no, I'm going to tough it out because chemo is the weak option.
Yes, yes.
You would go and get the treatment.
Exactly.
So if you've got anxiety, you've got depression, you've got ADHD, go and get the treatment. That's why it exists. Get the help that you deserve and have a good life.
Yeah.
It doesn't solve everything. I'm still very ADHD even on medication, but it does make a huge difference to my ability to function and regulate.
And I'm sure your well-being.
Yeah.
That must come hand in hand, does it?
Oh, without a doubt, because unfortunately neurodivergent people are our own worst enemy. So particularly being ADHD, we have all these ideas and we want to do everything. And then I always say, like, today Sarah hates yesterday Sarah because yesterday Sarah signed up to all these things and now today Sarah has to do them all. Because you get excited and you get a dopamine rush from doing things and then you look at your schedule and think, I'm so burnt out, I can't do this, I'm so overwhelmed. And so it's this vicious cycle of like wanting to be this person but then not having the executive function to actually pull that off because you just want to lay face first in your bed and rot for the day.
I shouldn't laugh because it's I'm laughing because I can relate to that and a lot of our clients can relate to that.
Yeah.
Because you go, start a podcast show because I'm already working like 100 hours a week. Why not just add another thing on your plate?
And people are like, are you sure you can fit that in? Sure, I'll figure it out.
All right.
I'll figure it out.
2 hours
Does
sleep,
it make
it's
money?
okay.
No, it's just for fun.
So like in a workplace, how do you harness, or first, how do you even notice if someone's got neurodiversity? Like how would they stand out? What would be their actions?
Everyone in my life tells me that I'm permanently in diagnosis mode because I diagnose everyone that I meet. Because I just, a big part of being autistic is being very observant or noticing details. So I tend to notice that about people. But often people can be really, really good at masking, so you wouldn't know unless you were looking for it. And so it's about actually opening up those conversations. So we talk a lot about having a neurodiversity affirming workplace at NeuroBloom. We want to walk the talk. In fact, a number of our employees are also neurodivergent. So we wear what you want. I don't care if wearing a skirt, a tight business skirt, is going to stop you from doing the fantastic job that I know your brain can do. Wear jeans. I don't care. I could not care less. For me, I'm a shoes off person. So the second I am anywhere, the shoes are off. I can't think when my shoes are on, but notice I'm wearing them now because I'm being very professional. But things you wouldn't know about people. But I think sometimes we have these really arbitrary rules in our workplace that don't actually serve a purpose. They were just handed down to us from whoever trained us in our job, and they don't actually matter. So what matters to me is that my speech pathologists are excellent at their job, that they know all the latest evidence, and that they do the very best job with the kids that we work with and the adults that we work with to support them in their lives. The T-shirt that they're wearing does not affect my life here nor there. And in fact, sometimes you can solve that problem. So what I did is went out and got a whole heap of comfy, just crew neck T-shirts and put our logo on them. So if you're having what we call like a no-bones day where I've got no energy and I'm really struggling to get ready in the morning, whip out your NeuroBloom T-shirt and put that on. Now you're in your uniform and you're ready to go. Because sometimes with neurodivergent people, actually the work part is the easiest. It's the getting to work part that's the hardest. So the showering and the making breakfast, and then if you've got kids, making lunches and getting them dressed and dropping them off. And by the time you get to work, you're so exhausted, you've got nothing left in the tank. And so things like picking an outfit can just be the last straw, So if you've got something like a work uniform, changes lives, honestly. Just takes all of that thinking out of what am I going to wear? Is this professional enough? What are people going to think? Blah, 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 blah. Just do a work uniform. You can claim it back on tax,
And it seems so simple. Like you're saying that, then I'm like looking back going, hold on, I wore a suit and high heels and I was uncomfortable every day for many years.
Because you felt that was the expectation, and that's what a lot of us would call masking. Like we show up how we're supposed to show up. And now that I'm a bit older and a little bit more comfortable in my skin, I am more comfortable about the fact that I don't wear shoes at work because I'm like, well, you can either have my brain at full functioning capacity or you can have me in shoes, but you can't have both. And so make the choice.
I'm going to bring in that policy.
And it's the same. It's the
I can
same
relate.
With being late. Like obviously there's certain workplaces you can't be late for, but for me, being ADHD and having neurodivergent children, and I'm also a single mum, being late is just par for the course, It's going to happen.
Yes.
And so my boss at the university, very affirming, talked to him a lot about neurodiversity affirming practices, and he's just flexible. He knows that I never don't do my work. I always do my work, but I might not get there till 9:30 because by the time I get everyone dressed and we go through everyone's individual meltdowns and get them at school, it's late. So you can either not have me as an employee or you can have me at 9:30. They're the options. And when you realise, okay, if we just modify our environment a little bit to work with our employees, we're going to get such good work out of these people because we're letting them be themselves and work. Because we know that some of the most creative and intelligent people are actually neurodivergent. So a lot of people who have the skills that you're looking for are neurodivergent, but they might not be able to get there in skirt and high heels by 9 a.m. So you have to pick. What do you want?
Yeah. So do you lecture in no shoes?
No, actually. Well, most of our work is online. So,
is it?
So definitely no shoes, yeah. and often I lecture from my bed, but I blur the background so they can't tell. But it's like I have this thing called hypermobility, which is also very common in neurodivergence, where like it's just very uncomfortable to sort of sit up straight and have perfect posture. So I'm more comfortable sitting on a comfy bed and then just blur out the background. No one can tell that I'm in my bed. They know now because I've told them. But, again, I can do a really, really good lecture from my bed. So you think, what is the university paying me to do? They're paying me to deliver this content in a really strong and engaging way, and sitting in a straight back chair with high heels on is going to make me do a bad job of that. So it's about thinking, what are these like arbitrary rules that we've hung on to for years that actually don't have anything to do with the product that we're trying to create in our business? And do we need to hang on to them, or could we be a little bit more flexible?
And it is so reassuring for myself personally to hear you say that, because over my years of working for others and learning how to eventually one day have my own business and the do's and don'ts that work for me personally, one of the things I was constantly learning about, and that was all part of my growth as well, self-development, was what makes everyone else comfortable might not make me comfortable. What makes me comfortable might not make other people comfortable. So the whole reason for my business structure was for everyone to be comfortable in their own little way at their own little time. So they come to work when they want to come to work. If they want to work from home, they can.
Yeah.
It is all virtual. It's fine. If they want to come to work in their gym clothes, which one of our employees does almost every day, that's fine too, because I want them to be comfortable and I want the best version of them, because that's better return on investment for me and our clients.
If that gets them out of the house and ready to do the job, cool.
Exactly. Like, I don't want you to wear high heels and a suit if that's not what makes you comfortable and more productive.
Yeah.
And you saying that just gives me that reassurance, like, oh, okay.
You've got a very neuro-affirming workplace, Lisa. And look, of course, we always have to show up to things, like sometimes I have to go to university graduation, so I get done up in the gown and that kind of thing.
Yes.
Horses for courses. If you have to go public facing, then you can get dressed up. But as a general rule, most of my work can be done from my pajamas. I mean, so it's just my brain that is needed. Okay, obviously not when I'm working with clients, but for the university, so much of our work has moved online. And I think it's taken a lot of shift. Like COVID obviously made a huge shift, but it's taken a lot of shift for a lot of industries to go, oh, actually maybe they're doing a better job at home, but we're paying for these office spaces, so we want them to come into work all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's also about trust. So this is the flip side of it. So I always talk to my employees about this. I will give you all the trust in the world, but you have to show me that. So if I'm going to let you work from home, you can't just be watching Netflix all day. You actually have to be doing the work. And if you need to take your kid to an appointment in the middle of the day, I'm not going to dock you pay for that. Go and do it and come back. I know you'll make up the time in the afternoon. As a mum, I realised that pediatrician appointments are in the middle of the day, you know? So I have needed that flexibility myself. So I offer that flexibility to my clients. Another common thing with neurodivergent people is they often have chronic illnesses as well. So they might need more medical appointments than other people. My employees will say, Sarah, I got an appointment 3 p.m. Wednesday. Is that fun? I'm like, yep, cool. So they'll either put an hour less on their timesheet or they'll make up the hour. But it's about trust and fairness, because they can't go to that doctor's appointment at 6 o'clock at night. The doctor isn't open then. And so I think the more you put into your employees, the more you get out of them, because they know that I'm on their team rather than you have employers that are like, all right, well, I'll dock your pay 43 minutes because that's how long you were gone.
Yes.
And it's like, well, you know, if you have an honesty system, you don't need to dock anyone's pay. They'll be honest and say, I didn't work that hour, so I'll put in an hour less on my timesheet. But it's all about building relationship and trust. So we all need flexibility in our lives. We all have times when we have stuff come up. You wake up in the morning, you've got a huge day and your child starts vomiting. And so sometimes it's possible to work from home. So, for example, our practice manager, she could work from home with a sick child. So she doesn't have to take the day off. But if we have a speech pathologist who has a sick child, they have to take the day off because we have to go out into the community and work.
Yes.
So it's just about being flexible and understanding and realising, like, I think because I have been there as a parent and I've had to make that phone call so many times of, I know I was supposed to come and do this really important thing today, but you know, that parental guilt.
Yes.
You really struggle with that as an employee. So as an employer, I try to be a lot more empathetic and I say to my employees, your sick leave is there for you to use. That's what it's for. That's why people worked so hard for workers' rights for all these centuries.
Exactly.
You take that sick leave, that's yours.
Exactly.
And that is factored into my accounting because I know I have to pay that sick leave every year. So you're not hurting my feelings by taking your sick leave. Just take it.
That's it. And it works as a two-way street, doesn't it? Because your employees are more productive
Yes.
and more willing to go the extra mile
100%.
when you nurture them and there's an open door trust environment.
Whereas if they're resentful and they know that you're clocking every minute on the clock, then
100%,
then they will say, well, it's 4:59 and I'm out of here.
Exactly.
Whereas if they have a great relationship with you and they're working on something important, sometimes they'll work till 5:30 because they want to get that task done and make it. They care about the business, and for us, it's like, I need to finish this child's report because I really care about this child. And they go the extra mile. Whereas if you make it that you're being nitpicky, people will be nitpicky back, I think.
Exactly. It's like when you point out an employee's mistake every time. Like, we're all human and we make mistakes.
Yeah.
Like, if you start nitpicking at an employee and for every little mistake they make, guess what? They're going to do the same back. And they're going to be, oh, hold on a minute. Like, you've just ripped my head off for that. But can
now
I do
I've
the
got
same
my
back?
list here of all the things
Let's go
you've
through
done.
I'm wondering, so for the ones that are a bit more old school, like people have been in business for 50 years or more and they're still stuck in the old school mentality, and whatever works for you, we're all different. But say they did have someone who couldn't sit still. Like maybe it's a creative employee who's great at their job, but they're constantly fiddling or talking or whatever it is that might bug them. How do they start to learn to accommodate the employee as well and to harness their skill set and not be frustrated by what comes with their creative mind?
Exactly. Yeah. So I would say, think, why did I employ this person and what do they do for my business? And the other weird thing is with the neurodivergent brain is sometimes I can do my full day's work in 2 hours because I'll just sit down and hyper-focus through it. So a neurotypical might sit there for 8 hours and steadily stream through all of their tasks, whereas I might be distracted and, off on a tangent for 6 hours, and then in 2 hours I'll just do every single task that I had to do. So because our brain ebbs and flows, we don't always get to control when the focus comes. And so you might think, oh, how do you get anything done when just bopping around like that all the time? But thinking, okay, well, this person's really creative. They know how to make websites. I don't know how to make websites. They're bringing something to my business that I couldn't bring. So I need to not just take the good, but I have to actually go, okay, well, what would it take? And just having a conversation and saying, okay, I've noticed that you don't really like sitting down all the time. Would you prefer a standing desk? Would you prefer to have walking meetings? Like there's a whole heap of things. Everything is mobile these days. So, and sometimes I feel better when I walk. So I'll just take a walking meeting with one of my students or with my colleagues or something at the university rather than sitting at a desk. Or sometimes I do feel like sitting at a desk, but I don't want to go into the same room as them, so we'll just Zoom each other because we can't be bothered. And sometimes I have a very chatty colleague, and she won't mind me saying this, but sometimes I have to put my headphones on, not because I'm listening to anything, but just as a symbol to her not to talk to me so I can get some work done. Because I quite like talking to her, but I can't focus when she's talking. So just having little strategies that are respectful to say, look, I've got to get this thing done and I've only got an hour, so I really can't talk to you, but I'll chat to you later. Yes. And just being really honest instead of letting that resentment build of why does this person talk all the time? They keep distracting me. They're not doing their work. I think if you just openly have that conversation of, and do it right at the start, like in the interview if you can. So, what would the ideal workplace look like for you? Would you like to work here? Would you like to work from home? Do you enjoy being with people? Do you enjoy having isolation? So things like an open plan office works great for some people. I like to be in a little siloed bunny hole that's left alone so that no one can talk to me. So in the uni, I just go and sneak into my office and I don't even turn the light on because I just don't want anyone to come and talk to me because I get in my hyper-focus and also don't have that much time in my day. So I've got 100 tasks to do. I just really like to get in there and be left alone and do my thing. But some people love the social side of it. So just having open conversations and seeing how their brain works best is how you can handle it.
And that's a great answer. And at the same time, I'm thinking this could be my ADHD brain or something, undiagnosed ADHD brain. But I'm also thinking, are we at the stage where maybe when we're hiring staff, like I'm big on the DISC profiles, like so you learn how people work in a workplace and with certain situations in the workplace. And now I'm thinking as you're talking, I wonder if we're at the stage where we almost need to do like a personality test almost, but to see are they neurodiverse and how do we harness that for them? Do we say to them, look, we're all here at 9, but you show up when you're ready to take off the pressure of them having to be there and then being flustered when they arrive? Or, it makes me wonder, and even think next time I hire an employee, maybe I need to be asking them a few more questions other than just like the DISC profile scenario.
Yeah. Well, I've been working on this thing in my research called the Spectrum of Neurodiversity, and it's a tool for mapping people's brains, and it's something that we use with our clients when we start with them. And it's basically just a whole heap of different features of brain neurodiversity and asking people where they fall on that. So some people are like really time bound and some people are really time blind. I would be the time blind. But we have other people that we work with, and I have colleagues in my work that are time bound. So if you say 9, we have to be there at 8:50, and if we're not there at 8:50, I'm going to be having a panic attack because I really like to be punctual. Whereas I'm like, I'll be within a 15-minute window of when I said I'm going to be there. So having that conversation has helped us not to have misunderstandings and conflict, because I'm aware that she will want to be there 10 minutes early, and I don't really care if we're there within a 15-minute window. So our understanding of time is very different, and we need to get on the same page about that. So just recognising that when it's a meeting with her, I will be punctual. I'll make sure, because she will have scheduled her day within an inch of its life and she won't want the schedule to get knocked out. So just having that respect for how other people's brains work. And there's just a whole heap of things. I'm hoping to develop it one day into like an app or a questionnaire, because the thing is that most people aren't even self-aware about their own features of their own brain, whether they're neurodivergent or not. Everybody has a unique brain. And so doing this activity can make people go, oh yeah, you're right. I really hate background noise. And that's why I hated my last workplace, because everyone was chattering and I couldn't get anything done. But that penny may not have dropped for them as to what it was in that environment that was really driving them insane. For me, it's like bright lighting. I like the lights to be dark because it just irritates my eyes and I can't think very much. And so when I'm lecturing and stuff, my students know I don't have the lights on, and I make them aware of why I can't have the lights on, because it just is too overstimulating for my brain and I can't think. Everyone calls me a vampire because when you come to my house, there's not a light on. I like it dark. It just makes me feel homey and cozy, and I've got lots of warm lamps in every room. So I never turn the big light on, but that's just a part of my neurodivergence. And so understanding that, sometimes if I was to go to a meeting with you and we were under fluorescent lighting, you wouldn't know that that was the reason I'm not giving you my best. Because how are you supposed to know that?
No.
And so having this tool that I'm working on to map your brain is just a really nice exercise for everyone to do. It's not just for neurodivergent people. It's for all neurodiversity, all people, to go, okay, so this is what works best for me. This is the environment I could work best in. This is how we can set it up. And I think it would be a really helpful tool for employers. We give it to our clients to self-advocate for themselves. So often people will come to us who are autistic and they're looking for employment and they need to enter the workplace. So we will do up like a profile and say, okay, I work best in X, Y, and Z environment, and give it to their employer so that before you ever get to any conflict or any struggles, you're already on the front foot of, okay, how can we support this person to thrive in our workplace? Because they're actually like a genius tech designer or something, but they don't want the lights on. So we can do that.
And how wonderful would that be to be at the stage where we could do that? So no more of this, okay, everyone's got to be at work by 9 o'clock, and if you walk through the door after 9:01, you know, you've got the boss like giving you the dirty or the grumpy good morning, like where have you been? Like to be at that stage where everyone can be comfortable and not feel like they're in trouble and at school in a working environment. Like you spend so much of your time at work. People need to be happy.
And that's why people have really high turnover rates of staff, because they're not happy but they haven't said that out loud. And sometimes you can't pinpoint why the staff might be unhappy because you haven't had these open conversations about, okay, what is it? And I say that to my staff all the time. Please, if there's anything I've done wrong, it's probably unintentional. Just come and have a chat with me about it rather than seething about it overnight, because I don't want you to feel that way. And so sometimes I'll say, oh, Sarah, you scheduled me 5 clients tomorrow and we have a cap of 4. And I'll say, oh, sorry, that was totally a mistake, and I will fix it. Whereas they might go home and be like, 5 clients and she said I was only going to have 4 and she's just so unfair, you know. So if you just come and it's probably just a mistake or an oversight and we can have a conversation about that and I'll fix it.
Yes.
But I can't fix it if I don't know what it is.
Yes. And what a great boss you are. What a great boss. Because how many people, and it's probably, I don't know, it could be just humans, we're all wired different, but how many people would be like, oh my God, I've already told her this. Why isn't she listening? Why does she keep doing this? And like you said, just have the conversation. Like
And being really open about my flaws. So it's like, yeah, you might have already told me 3 times, but I have a really bad memory because I have ADHD. So I won't be offended if you send me another reminder and say, Sarah, we forgot to talk about this in our meeting today. Can we talk about it tomorrow? I will be really grateful for that because I genuinely probably have forgotten to talk about it. So recognizing that I have flaws and being really open about those flaws with my employees helps them to then, you know, feel like an equal partnership with me and be able to say, oh, sorry, Sarah, I didn't get this done. And I'll say, I didn't get it done either. I got home and the kids were crazy. And, you know, so we're humans. And I think sometimes in the traditional workplace, we're expected to pretend like we don't have a home life. And it's just not feasible. We have a home life. You might have a sick parent. You might have a sick child. You might have a lot of financial stress. You might have had your bathroom flooded. You know, you can't just come to work and pretend none of that exists. That's not realistic. And so I think the more that we can be a whole person, people talk about work-life balance. And I think I don't want my employees to be a different person at work than they are at home because work is your life. Work is part of your life.
Yes.
And so just be who you are in every situation so that you can feel you can bring your whole self to that situation. And I can say, okay, great. Well, I know you've got a lot of stress on at the moment, so I'm not going to add anything more to your plate, but I really appreciate the work that you're doing, even though I can tell you've got really big things happening at home. I appreciate the fact that you're here and showing up and you're still doing an amazing job, even if you feel like you're doing a terrible job.
Yes. And how true. Like, I've heard plenty of stories about people's parents passing away and them having work commitments that have been apparently more important. You know, people missing out on their auntie's funeral because the workplace wouldn't let them have it off.
Or you don't have any compassionate leave left. It's like, well, you don't have any compassion.
Yeah, exactly. Well said. You know, and you hear stories like that and you think, really? Like, where is your compassion? Like, are you not human? I know you're trying to run a business and there's money to make, but people are still human and life happens. And yes, people do die. Not everyone makes up that their dog's died for the 10th time.
And it's interesting that you touch on the money side of things because I think that is people's biggest fear. We hold on so tight to the control because we want to make the money. But actually what a lot of the research in the field of business shows that if you do let go a bit, you actually make more money. So they've done trials of the 4-day work week in some countries. Like, so you get a full pay, but you only work for 4 days, just as productive. The businesses are actually making more money because they want to be there. Every weekend they've got a long weekend to look forward to. So for the 4 days they're there, they give 110%, knowing they've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. So the mentality has shifted rather than I'm coming 5 days, but I'm going to play on Facebook most of the time because I don't want to be here and I hate my life.
Yes.
So thinking about that shift. So in NeuroBloom, we only open 4 days a week and we make sure that our staff are paid really, really well. They're paid well above award so that they don't suffer for losing that last day. And people often comment, oh, how do you make any money? And it's like, well, yes, that you take hits and things like that, but the quality of our work is really high and our staff retention is really high because people want to be there. And so thinking about the trade-off of, okay, if I lose a speechy and that speechy has 30 clients, it's really hard to recruit a new speech pathologist in a rural town and those people are going to go without any support and they might go to another business while they're waiting for me to re-employ someone, or I can treat my speech pathologists really well and they won't leave.
Exactly. And they give great customer service, which increases your referrals.
Exactly.
And it saves you money in marketing. Like,
that's exactly
the domino
right.
effect of
we
all of
we
that.
do no marketing.
Exactly. And you don't need to because word of mouth. Like, when did you start? Remind me. How long's NeuroBloom been around for?
Well, I started it in 2020 during the lockdown. I was just doing like telehealth on the weekends, basically, you know, just as we all tried to figure out what to do with our lives in that time. And then I realised there was just such a need. So I was living in Colcan at the time and people would say, how would you build a business of speech pathology in a small town like that? And I'd say easily. There are so many people that need support that travel an hour to Wagga or a half an hour to Albury to get support and they'd rather have someone local. And I've been able to prove that model. So we've now expanded to a heap of small towns like the Rock, Henty, and we have absolutely no trouble attracting clients. If actually we have a really long waiting list because there are so many people that do want to access that service. It's just never been available before. And so eventually it's morphed into I've had to employ other speech pathologists because it was just meant to be a little side hustle for me, but the need was there. And so we've been able to expand, and now we have a practice manager as well, which has changed my life because I don't do the admin myself anymore.
Wow. And hat off to you. Well done, because business is hard and the early days can be really hard. Like it can make or break you. And I can't think what the stats are at the top of my head, but, you know, I think, is it 3 years, 5 years and the doors start shutting or...
Yeah, because you start with all this momentum and enthusiasm and outlay.
Yes, exactly. And whether or not it's because it's a lot of entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs are a bit ADHD and they're like, oh, I've got all these big ideas and
Very ADHD.
So, look, I really admire you. Seeing you do your TEDx talk, you are an amazing woman. I don't know if you realise how amazing you are, how smart you are, and so inspiring. Go you. You're like uni lecturer, small business, single mum.
Thanks, Lisa. And
seriously are superwoman.
I think being ADHD and late diagnosis, often all I can focus on are the things that I'm bad at. So it's really nice to hear that and that's what I want to shift is for saying you might have X, Y, and Z that you're not very good at, but look at the list that you just reeled off. You know, I wouldn't reel that off about myself, but I really need to stop and think, oh yeah, you do good things as well as having flaws. So let's not just focus on the flaws. But I think my biggest advice, I guess, would be just know what your flaws are and own them. So I know I'm terrible at paperwork. That's your job, Lisa.
Yes.
So that's why I hire you, because you make sure that we're compliant and you make sure that we pay the right wages and that we pay the right super. And I would never be able to do any of that. I'm a speech pathologist. I do speech therapy. And so me being able to stay in my lane and having other people to do the bits that I know I'm not good at. And again, it's about that, as you say, holding tight to the money and worrying about it. For every dollar you spend on someone like Lisa, the mental health that I've gained back from that and the time I've gained back from that with my family, because obviously I had to do my own invoices on the weekend when sometimes I wouldn't do them at all, so then I just wouldn't get paid. And so, you know, to outsource that for a few hours a week, life-changing. All my employees get paid on time and they get paid the right amount. So the stress of letting someone else down is also taken away. And so I think that's something I've really learnt is you don't have to be good at everything and you're not going to be. So figure out the things that you hate and that you're really bad at and get someone else to do them.
Yes. Great advice, because honestly, like, how long can you last in life being good at absolutely everything?
You can't. No one is. It's a facade.
It is. Yeah. It is. It is not possible. And sometimes I think small business owners, from the public's point of view, you're like, oh, they've got this. Like, that small business is smashing it. But I can guarantee you there's stuff going on behind the scenes that they're not smashing, because you cannot physically wear all those hats and do them well at 110%.
And the reason you've gotten into business is because you're good at your thing. So for me, it's speech therapy. It could be plumbing. It could be, something else. But that's what your business is. Your business is not doing a BAS and doing payroll. It's fine that you don't know how to do that because that's not your job. You didn't get trained to do that. Actually, interestingly, one of the most common postgraduate degrees for speech pathologists is a Master of Business, because so many speech pathologists have gone, I've got no idea what I'm doing here. And so it's like, true, we're not trained to do any of this. That's not our thing. So whatever it is that you've started your business for, you focus on that. You're the talent,
Yes.
And find someone who is an expert at the other stuff and get them to help you with that stuff. It's okay to not know how to do it because you weren't trained in it.
Yes, so true. Look, I probably should start to wrap up. As you're talking, I'm thinking about a lot of entrepreneurs, whether they're ADHD or it's just their personality, whatever it is. So I'm thinking they're always 100 miles an hour, big ideas. How do they harness, so small business owner or entrepreneur, how do they harness being neurodivergent in business?
Yeah. I think what you need to work out is, what are your strengths? What are you bringing that no one else is bringing? And really focus on that, because there are things that I can do that I didn't realise were a talent until other people said, oh, I find that really hard. So, for example, public speaking, I find that really fun. I enjoy getting up and talking, whereas other people say, oh, that's my worst nightmare. I would never do it. So if that's your talent and you can do it, channel your energy into that and be really, conscious. Sometimes I have a lot of notebooks where I write down all my fantastic genius ideas for entrepreneurship, and most of them don't make it off the page. So that can be helpful to just dump them out somewhere, but you don't have to see every single one to fruition. And I've had ones that sometimes I've written down and then 5 years later an opportunity has come up and I would think, oh, actually I did want to do that ages ago and now is the right time. So you don't have to do all of the ideas all at once. Figure out what you're really good at and what's going to be feasible in terms of your life commitments. So this is something that I really suck at but am working at a lot, saying, okay, how much can I realistically fit in my life? So my New Year's resolution is do less because as ADHDers we take on too much. We get too excited. We say yes to things. And also I have an ADHD coach, which I really, really value. So just a sort of a sounding board to set goals with and to sort of be that person to go, okay, that's a great idea, Sarah, but we're not going to actually be able to do that this week because you have a full-time job and 3 children. So great idea. Love that for you. Write it down. Put a pin in it. So having that person to just keep you grounded and say, that is a great idea. No one's knocking it down. And I bet if you put your mind to it, you could bring that to fruition, but you can't do it today because we love urgency as ADHDs. We want it done right now. And sometimes we can forget that's not always feasible. So having a person who is your sounding board. It could be an ADHD coach, but it could be your husband or wife, or it could be your colleague at work, or to go, okay, this is the idea I'm having, and having them bring you back down to earth a bit and help you to find out a way that might be more feasible.
And such good advice. Look, and again, I'm not diagnosed, but you saying that, it's like, I have got an employer that goes, Lisa, stop, you're doing enough, slow down.
And your ideas are fabulous, Lisa, and they shouldn't be restricted. Look, this idea to do a podcast, fantastic idea. It's so great. I love people who take their ideas and make them happen, but maybe it's going to take 6 to 12 months to get it where you wanted it to be 3 months ago, because our brain's like, no, this is fantastic, it's amazing, it's going to happen now. And so we have to have that sort of external person to go, no, you're doing really good, you're doing all the steps, but it's going to take more than a week to be the #1 podcast in Australia.
Thank you so much. Look, I don't normally give anything a plug, but I do really, really, really want listeners to know that you are, for the first time, hosting a few webinars, because I just think this is you're onto something. The amount of small business owners we speak to, and then just our personal connections as well, that would benefit, and especially in this day and age, people being more open to learning more about neurodiversity. Can you just end with a little bit of what's coming up?
Yeah. So we're doing online webinars. My partner in NeuroBloom, Lucia Flint, and I are running webinars about understanding neurodiversity, and it's, I think, an 8-part series. Could be 10-part, can't remember. That's a Lucia asked the question. But it's going to be once a month, and you can come live or you can get the recording because, again, we're flexible to people's lifestyles and when they can fit things in.
Yes.
And basically every session is breaking down a different aspect of neurodiversity. So it could be that you're trying to understand your own neurodiversity. A lot of parents are coming because they're trying to understand their kids' neurodiversity, but even for employers, trying to be a better employer for someone who's neurodivergent. So it's very much targeted at everyone who wants an understanding of neurodiversity and how that can present in different people and how we can make accommodations in school, in the home and in the workplace to help people to thrive in those environments.
Yeah, fantastic. We'll put links in the show notes along with other links for your socials and website. Thank you so, so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Lisa.
If you would like some more tips on how to help you in your small business, visit the link in the show notes to sign up to our newsletter. Until next time, stay fresh and stay kind.